And we start with I'm really sorry we don't have the accompanying music. Dun, dun, dun. Breaking news.
We do have some news. Yesterday, if you'll remember, Haney, we were talking with Billy Embody about where LSU could go in the transfer portal. We talked about the linebacker position maybe being their biggest need because of their offensive linemen deciding to come back. In some news, and I saw it first. I don't know if it was the first to have it. I know it's a big deal now, but I saw it first from Brody Miller at The Athletic. Clemson linebacker Mike Jones announces he is transferring to LSU. He was in the 2018 class. Last year, he played a little bit for Clemson, had 30 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, and a forced fumble in those 10 games for Clemson, half a sack. So this is someone who was a top 200 player, right on the fringe of being a top 200 player in his signing class in 2018, a 4-star guy out of IMG, originally, I believe, from Nashville, number 15 outside linebacker in the country when he signed with Clemson in 18. So they get a guy who has got some experience in a really good program to help add competition to the linebacker room.
Yeah, he was a pretty highly recruited guy, as I remember. Had his pick of a number of SEC schools. I don't remember LSU being deep in on him. I could be wrong there, but I don't remember him as being a almost LSU guy. So this is probably an interest that has come up since his original recruitment. But if you're a guy that is going to Clemson these days, you've got a lot of ability. And if you look at the rest of his list, there were certainly a lot of other schools that wanted him. And I got to believe that a lot like Jabril Cox a year ago. Do I believe that Jabril Cox grew up going, man, if I could ever get to Baton Rouge, if I could play in Tiger Stadium, wouldn't that be like the greatest thing of all time? I mean,
I like the real Death Valley.
Yeah, listen, the Southeastern Conference, that's been my dream for a kid that's not from here. Now, you get a kid like Mason Smith from the Bayou, you say, well, okay, yeah, that guy grew up watching LSU every weekend. He goes out to eat. There's a restaurant. It's decorated with LSU stuff, okay? He goes to school. There's other kids wearing LSU stuff. You get that every day of your life in the state of Louisiana. You didn't get that when Jabril Cox was in college at North Dakota. And I doubt very much that Mike Jones has seen very much LSU stuff over at Clemson. But what you're seeing here, I think, is the education of the most highly sought-after kids in the transfer portal. What do? They're going for an opportunity. They want to start from the second they hit campus. They want to get in, and they want to get out.
Yeah.
It's not the lifelong dream. It's not the sappy romantic story of, I grew up, my dad and I watching this team. I grew up, me and my brother used to go to the games. My coach would, show us the videos. No, it's a business decision at that point. You need linebacker. I'm a linebacker in search of playing time. Nice to meet you.
Yes.
Can we form a partnership here? And for LSU, it worked last year with Jabril Cox to a certain extent. I didn't think he was nearly as good as he was billed to be, but I thought he was pretty good. He'll certainly be drafted, I would say, probably on the second day in the NFL draft. Hit third round, if I had to guess, maybe a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower. But I thought he did some nice things, made a couple of big plays. Was he Eric Hill? Was he Devin White? No. But he wasn't bad. Like I said, he made some plays. He made a business decision. Jabril Cox came to Baton Rouge, and the first day he walked in the locker room, he had already signed. The visit that he was supposed to take was derailed by the original outbreak of COVID. It's actually a very interesting story. They caught him at the airport and said, go home.
Yeah.
I want to say it was March the 12th exactly. Man, it might have been the day before. But he didn't, like I said, he didn't come here because he walked into Tiger Stadium and went, wow.
Right.
He didn't go and walk by the trophies or Mike the Tiger's cage or, purple and gold, man. That's what I've dreamed about.
Right.
Louisiana kids dream about it. And some other kids out of state dream about it,
He
too.
didn't go to the Independence Bowl against Michigan State.
Right.
Yeah.
As young Jacob Hester did, and say, I want to play for those guys.
Right.
It's a business decision, and that's fine because the schools are doing the exact same thing. They're looking at it and saying, you know what?
Yep.
We need a guy. We're short a guy. They got a guy.
Yep.
Their guy wants out.
So he's
we'll
a
take their
guy until he shows he's a dude, is what you're saying?
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
Well, he's a 4-star guy who has put up very modest statistics.
Okay.
That doesn't mean he can't become a dude.
We need some dudes.
All right, you've got Micah Baskerville. You've got Damon Clark. Damone Clark. You played well 2 years ago, didn't play well last year. You look in there and you tell Jones, here's the guys you're fighting. Baskerville, 2 years ago, really more of a special teams guy. Last year, became a guy. Came on, into the season, probably our best linebacker. Clark, 2 years ago, played pretty well. Last year, didn't. Played himself out of the rotation by the end of the season for the most part. Played some, but did not play well at all. Where do you fit? Beat those two guys out.
Yeah.
And if he does, great. And if he doesn't, well, this is an opportunity where LSU doesn't have a whole stack of entrenched linebackers. And that's not even counting the guys that didn't play, the guys that they recruited the last 2 years.
Exactly. And remember, you did get the number one JUCO linebacker as far as inside linebackers. So you have another
strong.
Yeah, right. So you have another. I consider JUCO guys veteran guys. I mean, they've been in the college system. And
both of these guys would be veteran guys.
Yeah, they're not coming straight from high school. So now you've added two guys to a room that have been through it. You're not adding new guys. They haven't been through it at LSU, but at least they've had that experience to be able to push the two guys that Baskerville and Clark going to be the starters, right? Heading into spring football practice, right? But now you've got two guys to push them, and I always love competition between veteran players that are going to bring out the best of these guys. And who knows? We'll see what we got. You've signed a couple in the last two classes as far as high school guys, but it was definitely a position of need because you don't know how Strong's going to transition from JUCO. He's got experience there. He was the number one guy. But you don't know how he's going to transition, so you had to add another body. Now they sit, Haney, at 24, so one spot available.
Yeah, you got to go find a transfer offensive lineman somewhere.
Do they? You think they still do? Having everyone
come back? I think that's their preference.
You have everyone coming back. You have Cam Wire, who got experience in two positions.
Keep in mind, it's not going to be a graduate transfer. Okay, they've got a numbers problem where I don't believe they can take a graduate transfer. So this would be a transfer that would have multiple years of eligibility remaining. I think that they would prefer an offensive lineman. If somebody jumps off the page, if they hold this scholarship until after spring, and somebody pops out and says, "Hey, I want out of University X," and they go, "Oh, guy's a dude. We got players at that. Oh, that guy's a dude." You go out and you get him, but I think they would prefer all things equal to.
I was sitting and we had this conversation yesterday, and we were going through the positions. And as soon as I got in the car, I started going through my head of positions where they could add a guy, as far as depth and just maybe a veteran presence there. And I started thinking, man, tight end. Tight end. They lose Gilbert. They've got Taylor. They've got Nick Storrs, who's going to be a football guy now full time, But the tight end position, my mind almost was thinking old school LSU tight end. You need four of them. It's like you really don't. Like you've got two guys now that you feel comfortable with, and you've got a guy like Jack Besh coming in. And I'm not trying to will Jack Besh into a tight end role. I hope that's not how this is coming across because he just got named State Player of the Year. He's a hell of a receiver. But I think he's a guy that can come in and do some of those things because he is very strong. He's got the frame to do it. He's still going to be a receiver, but in 2021 football, there's no longer a need for a Y tight end. It's more of an F tight end that moves around off the ball in the slot doing different things.
Yeah, they've got 7 backup tight ends in my mind. They're all wide receivers.
Yeah.
That's just what you plug in.
I mean, we've seen Racing McMath do it in his pass. We saw Sullivan do it in his pass. I mean, take a receiver because now you don't have to do all the dirty work type of things that guys like Foster Morrow had to do.
One more thing about Mike Jones that we don't know right now, and I think is intriguing, is
this is going to be tough. Mike Jones is a rap song that over and over says his name, and I'm like, every time you say it, I'm like, Mike Jones.
And see, when I think Mike Jones, I think of the Super Bowl between the Rams and Titans.
Okay,
so we're all
we
different.
Fit well together.
What we don't know is what Durante Jones thinks of Mike Jones or really anybody on this defense's part. We've heard from him one time. We're not likely to hear a whole lot more from him. We don't know exactly schematically what everything looks like. For all we know, he looked at the film on this kid and said, you know what? I got the perfect spot for this guy.
Yeah.
I know exactly what I want to do with him.
You don't take a guy with 3 years of eligibility left if you don't love him. You just don't. You don't watch the film, turn on the tape, and say, yeah, we'll take the guy. He played at Clemson. Surely he's going to be good. No, you've done your research.
Durante Jones could have any number of, scenarios for this kid. Blake Baker, too, who's going to be the linebackers coach. That's going to be his primary contact. So we don't know what these two guys think of Jones, but I got to believe it's pretty favorable for them to use one of their last two slots. He does have 3 years of eligibility remaining, but he is draft eligible as well. So what are the chances of him being here 3 years? I know everybody's initial thing, well, I hope he said. I don't. I hope he comes in here and has 1 year and just kicks everybody's ass and goes in the NFL
Right.
draft, okay? So, yeah, he could be here 3 years. Maybe he'll be here 2 years. If he's here 1 year, assuming he doesn't, have some kind of injury or some kind of off the field something, then hey, if he comes in here and has one dynamite year and goes to the draft, you know what? That's how the game works here. Jabril Cox came in here. A lot of people thought he could be a first-round pick if he had a big year at LSU. He didn't, but he had an okay year.
Mm-hmm.
He'll still get drafted. You got what you wanted out of Cox. He got what he wanted out of LSU. Wasn't perfect. Would have preferred it ended a little bit better. Greatly preferred it ended a little bit better, but it served its purpose. So we'll see what they end up with Mike Jones from Clemson. Make him number 24.